So today we continued changing repeating decimals to fractions, but we had a slightly different situation. Notice in this decimal, the 1 repeats, but both the 3 and the 8 do not. So today, unlike yesterday, we're going to have to shift that decimal over 2 places. Because remember, our goal is to change this into a decimal, a repeating decimal, that we can easily change into a fraction. And if we only move that decimal over 1 spot like we did yesterday, we'll still have that 8 there that doesn't repeat, and we won't be able to change it easily into a mixed number. So we're actually going to move that decimal 2 places. So this number is going to become 38.1 repeating. And since we moved the decimal over 2 places, that means this is going to be divided by 100. Because remember, dividing by 10 or 100 moves that decimal over. And since we're moving it 2 places, we're going to divide it by 100. All right. And notice, if we had just divided by 10, we would have had 3.81 where the 8 didn't repeat, and that's not going to help us at all. So here's what we end up with. 38.1 repeating divided by 100. And we know that 38.1 repeating is 38 and 1/9 based on the patterns we learned a few days ago. Now, before we can divide it, just like we did yesterday, we're going to have to change this into an improper fraction. 38 times 9 plus 1, 343 over that denominator of 9. And it's still being divided by 100. We're going to drop that down. But like we talked about, you can't, when you divide fractions, you keep the first fraction the same, and we multiply by the other fraction flipped over. So instead of 100, we're going to multiply by 1 over 100. So we end up getting the top times the top, 343, the bottom times the bottom, 900. 343 900ths is the fraction version of that original decimal. And if you're not sure, you can always check. 343 divided by 900 equals 0.38111111, and that's exactly what we had. So notice, the only difference today compared to yesterday is that today you might have to move that decimal over more than just 1 place. In this case, we had to move it 2 places. But we always want to move it so that all the digits after the decimal repeat.